What? How y'all doing? I need to rant a little bit. I've got a few topics I want to rant on. This one might have been the first I came up with, but there have been a few things over the last few weeks that have made me a bit kind of tetchy. More so coming up as the days go on, which is annoying. Like things that I didn't expect to be things that have irked me a little bit in the past, but now I'm just like, oh, why is that a thing? It has to be said that in a lot of cases, I understand why these things are a thing to a degree. I just kind of wish they weren't a thing. So today, the rant I'm going with is, I don't know, extra software for things that you shouldn't need software for. So what are you on about, Scaz? Well, a little while ago, I said how, for the most part, as a Linux user, and I do use other operating systems too, so I don't want to tar the entire Linux kind of user space with this. For the most part, we don't care. I don't care if I buy a device and I only get access to its basic features because some of the more advanced stuff requires extra software. Okay, so if I have a capture card, I don't mind there being a feature or two that I can't use because it is specifically enabled or disabled or whatevered with a specific piece of software that comes with whatever device that isn't made available for my operating system. So, example, Elgato and AVerMedia have little extra tricks in their software for their capture cards to allow you to record a raw version of your video file. So let's say, for example, you're streaming and you put a bunch of fancy overlays in your video, but you also want to have a raw copy of just the video with no overlays, with none of you, with none of your audio, just raw gameplay or whatever the input is. You could just enable this feature, hit the button, and bam, it would dump a copy of the video to a file on your drive. That is not a thing on Linux because we don't have the software. The hardware is capable of doing it, but we can't do it because we don't have the software. However, the device itself works without, like, most of its features, the base features, function as expected. You know, like if I get a microphone, I would very much appreciate it if all of the things on the microphone functioned at the base level. So, I don't know, the microphone, I expect to plug it in and it captures my voice. And if it has a mute button, I would very much like for the mute button to function. And that's one of the things that's really irked me of late is like, hey, we have mute buttons on our microphones, but they're not physical buttons. Like they are, but like you can tap them on some devices. But instead of it being a click and it shuts down the power to the capsule of the microphone, it's a software mute switch. And in some cases, I'm not giving examples, but in some cases, if you don't have the software installed, you can't use the button. I'll actually use one as an example, I suppose, is that the Elgato Wave microphones, I understand that those are not designed for Linux. I use one on a Windows machine. I have one on the floor by my foot. Hang on. There you go. Elgato Wave 3. It's not a cheap microphone, but there's lights here on the front of this microphone to say how loud it is. You know, for how loud what is it? How loud the microphone is, how loud the headphone out is, and then how loud the kind of the mix is between the computer audio that you hear and the audio that you speak in. You can hear that through headphones that you plug in to the back. You can kind of mix. You can go, oh yeah, so I'm listening to like majority of the PC sound. There's a faint version of me in the background, so you can kind of get your mic presence right and stuff. Those lights, the microphone works fine. Those features work fine. None of the lights, though, function without the software. The lights don't work. But all it's doing is manipulating the sound on the computer. It knows when you've cranked it to no, so... but no lights. Not a huge thing, but kind of irks me. If you mute the microphone, the little red light would come on, but not without software. Again, not a huge thing because this isn't actually designed to run on Linux, but it does irk me a little bit that lights don't work. Speaking of lights, keyboards, mice, things with RGB in them. So I have a keyboard that I quite like. I always have spare keyboards, and one of my spuds has a keyboard, and they have RGB on them. Now they're by the same company, but they're different models, slightly different models, and so his has more. It's got options to kind of do some of the things that I complain that the other one can't, but like you can kind of change colors, you can kind of change light modes, and you can kind of turn LEDs off. However, on one of the other keyboards, if you want to change anything, you have to have an extra piece of software installed. Oh, so you want to change the color? You can't cycle. We've maybe got a couple of colors on here. If you screw up, though, the profile on the board, there's like a keyboard shortcut you can do to erase the onboard memory. If you do that, good luck even getting the lights to turn on without the software installed on a computer. If you can't install that software, no control at all. It doesn't just reset to a default profile, it completely clears the onboard memory for the keyboard, thus disabling the lights entirely, and they're black on black caps. So it's like, I mean, I touch type, so it's not a huge problem for me, but it is also a shrunk down keyboard that I'm trying to learn. So some of the keyboard shortcuts are a bit like, how do I get that to work again? Like, I can touch type on it still, but I can't. So you have to install a piece of software. You want to tweak any of those color profiles? You need to install the software. You want to make it go from solid color X, Y, and Z on one of them? You've got to install the software. You want to, on one of the other ones, you can change the color profiles, but you can't change what they are. It's just got like a set of like 4. Right now it's on like my spuds is on a rainbow effect. Can you change it? Not all the time, which is weird. I have a mouse that's the second you plug it in, it just discos you out. It just goes like RGB rave mode, and it just rainbows colors in your face. Turn them off? Nope. No option to turn them off. None whatsoever. No button on the mouse, no clicky combo on the mouse to change color profiles or turn them off. It is literally all done in software. Could I just have a button combination, please, to at least turn off LEDs? If you've got RGB on your device, can I just give me like, I don't know, red, green, blue, white, off. If it's a keyboard, a full-on big old keyboard, give me a button combination that I can press to change some of that stuff, please, and then turn it off. Because without it, just because I've plugged it in doesn't mean I want to have a disco on my desk. I don't want to have a full-on fucking rave like I'm having an acid trip on my desk. Just let me turn it off. Mice, keyboards, like a mouse. Make it so that I have to like press and hold right click and then like the DPI switch and then scroll the scroll wheel to change colour. I don't know how you could do it, but just do it. Because it's annoying. We've got other keyboards that have lights on them that you can just hit a keyboard combination and it changes. We've got other mice in the house where you can just turn the lights off. There'll be like a selector switch on there and you can turn them off. But my fucking god, if I have to install another piece of software just to stop it from causing me to have an epileptic fit when I'm sat at my computer, you're not doing it right. It's annoying. My monitor has RGB on the back of it. Now, I think there are controls to turn those off, but you can't change the colour of them without a piece of software being installed. At least I've got the option to turn them off. My PC has RGB in it. My keyboard, mouse, all RGB, all from the same brand. But I can only change the internal fan LED with... Look, I can change the fan LED with firmware on the machine, on the motherboard's firmware. I can change the fan LED. Case LED, there's an option on the case to do that. But the keyboard? Nope. The mouse? Nope. Uses the same software as the monitor to change the colours. It's annoying. So if it decides it's going to, I don't know, let's say, for example, something goes wrong and the machine kind of force reboots or whatever and the keyboard goes, and it disc goes out on me, can't change it without reinstalling software. That does my damned head in. Some of my web cameras. Like, if a device requires a piece of software to work, I get you. Like an Elgato Stream Deck or something. Like, if you actually need a specific piece of software to get that thing to work, full stop, not a problem. But little things like keyboards, mice, microphones, stop making me install extra pieces of software to make them not be shit. And I get it. I said we're usually happy with basic functionality. Great, as long as I'm not being discoed out. Or as long as it's not something stupid like the mute button doesn't work. Or hey, you've got a volume control on it. That don't work unless you've got software installed. Or, I don't know. It just seems really silly to me to have full-blown features on a device that you can't control from the device itself. That you have to have an external device with a separate piece of software on it to control the colours or the sound profiles. I know that there are new microphones, like Elgato does it now. You have to have the software to run their microphone. Fine, to a degree. Basic features would be nice. They kind of work. Fine. I think Blue are now starting to do it with their microphones, like the Yeti. I don't know if the original Yeti's like it, but the Yeti Nano, I think, might do it, and the Yeti X is their new big one. It's got a compressor on it. Compressor, limiter, I think, is software based. Compressor, limiter. Maybe it's like some kind of EQ on it too, but it's all software based. I understand that these are kind of really kind of things to have on a like a microphone. Like, well, why would I have like an EQ curve on my microphone? Well, at least give me like a low cut on the microphone. I've got microphones that I've had for 20 years that have the option to put in a cut on the low end. You know, or maybe a boost. Like, if you look at the what's it called, the S7? Have I just gone and got that wrong? The fucking Shure broadcast microphone, the one that everyone seems to be using these days. That's got some little bits on it that you can just tweak, so you can kind of customize that sound profile to how you like it. Tweak those. It's got a few voicing options on it to kind of give you that thing that you need to make it work. My MXL 2003A has a couple of switches on it for like a 10 decibel pad on it and a low cut, high pass, whatever. It's got options on it. These things aren't completely unheard of on these pieces of equipment, but now, I guess to save some cash, we're just going to have, instead of it being a physical pressable switch or button, we're going to put it into software. So annoying. So annoying. I get it to a degree. I do, but can we not just have it like we used to back in the day, where you would have a dumb device that would just work and you'd plug it in and you'd do magic to make it do the extra stuff? You know? I've got microphones that are just dumb as fuck. You just plug them in and they work. They don't do anything fancy, they just work. They have a job, they capture sound, that's it. When did we start making... Why do things have to be so complicated now? I was actually speaking to a few people today and they said, well, that's partly why some people are actually frustrated with using newer technology. Like, so maybe older generations are like, because it keeps changing. Do you remember back in the day, you used to have like discs and all this kind of stuff to... If you wanted to install a device, you'd have to have the device, you'd have to have the disc, and you put the disc in, you'd install the driver, and you could plug it in, and then it'd work, and then you'd have to go and get like software from like a disc or another floppy disk or whatever to get the thing to do stuff. And then later on, it got to the point where like, hey, why don't we just make it so that they plug it in, we do a search, we pull down the driver for it, and then maybe possibly go for the software too? I've started to notice that a lot of the cases now, I'm not getting that extra software. I'm actually having to jump through extra hoops to go and get the extra software to make the extra features work. Like, hey, you've plugged it in. We know it's there. Your computer recognizes like half of it. But if you actually want to get it to work, you're going to have to download the extra software. And it's like, but it's a dumb device. Why does it need all that? Because we've decided we're gonna take it from complicated to easier to not as complicated as it was to start with, but not as easy as it could be again. I don't know, it irks me. Or devices that should be dumb, a la microphone, and then maybe if they have like an automatic mode on them, and you can't turn that fucker off without software. Like, what? It's a dumbass microphone. Why isn't it automatically in a manual mode? Like, as if it has like some kind of processing on the thing. Why can I either not completely control it from the device, or why don't you put it into dumb mode if I don't have the software on it, in it, around it? It would just make things so much easier. I have devices on my desk and by my desk there, you just plug them in. It's like, oh mate, I want a compressor. Then fucking turn the compressor on the device. It's a button and a toggle or whatever, and bam, you've got filter, you know, I don't know, basic EQ, whatever. It's on the device. There would be nothing stopping these companies from going, right, hey, you want to, high pass? Just button. But no, software. And everyone's like, oh yeah, mate, check this fucking shit out. Got a really rad microphone with compression and all that stuff on it, and it's USB. Great. Yeah. For people who can actually install a damn software. And then you get to the point where like maybe some of that software is no longer supported or accessible, and now your device is an annoying full auto disco ball. I don't know. It just, like I said, the idea that a mute switch doesn't just hardcore cut off a capsule. The idea that I can't just turn off LEDs. Or go through a basic color profile or change the brightness without installing a piece of software. It just, my mouse has to be a disco ball until I install software. Just, oh. Or I've got like a pair of headphones, right? Where I've actually got a headset the noise reduction, all of this magic jiggery pokery happens on the microphone by default. You have to manually go in and change the profiles in software to stop the thing from going like noise cancellation, compression, all this, and you're like, and it sounds like shit until you turn half of this stuff off. I understand that it would be quite convenient for a lot of people just to plug it in, and now they can sit next to their tumble dryer and their washing machine, and everything just automatically works. But some of us actually like to have a bit of control, or just like it to be raw, and then I'll do the rest of it in software myself. I don't need your magic jiggery pokery on it. Fuck man, I've got a headset over there where if you don't have the software, it just rainbows out at you. I'm like, dude, I'm never going to wear that. I look like a right spaz. Admittedly, I look a bit derpy now as is, but it just reminds me of the old days when, like, even if you had an MP3 player or a mini disc player, you had to have extra software just to get it to do a thing. That should not be a thing anymore. Give us an option to run whatever it is as a dumb device. You know, don't put a button on something if it isn't going to work without software. It's just... make it do something. Anyways, I'm going to... I've ranting for too long on this one. It just seems so dumb. So dumb that I have to install extra software that may not be available forever, stuff that may not be supported for a huge amount of time. And I don't care what price range the product is in either, because this happens on low-end devices that come from Chinaville, or high-end devices that come from, well, they technically come from Chinaville anyway, but like engineered in America or wherever, where, you know, you're spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds on a device, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't actually do anything without any of this stuff. Oh, by the way, we don't have any of that available anymore. I have a few capture cards, by the way, that you just can't get the software for anymore. So if you haven't got them archived, that thing's a brick. You know, won't say who, but just product support. Someone's good. Well, how old's the thing? You know, 9 years old. Well, then you should throw it in the bin. But it's still good. For a job, it still works. This is not like it's a toy. It's like a 1080 30 720 60 capture card. But nope, no support. None. So probably weren't as clear as I wanted to be. I just need to get that off my chest. It just irks me so much. Have you guys come up to any of that stuff where you have what should be realistically a dumb device or should have a dumb mode on it, but just doesn't because of thing? I understand that if a device is built around a specific piece of software, that's fine. But that kind of stuff should not include keyboards, mice, headsets, you know, microphones. I would largely say don't do it. The Elgato Wave is kind of it's an out there device that I can't really argue about because they claim all this magic jiggery pokery, but I believe that the magic jiggery pokery is just a software key it's a serial key embedded into the firmware of the device to activate the. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Oh my god! But I'm heading off. Share your experiences. I hope you're well, and I'll see you all with a bit of luck in the next one. Stupid third-party software. My fucking machine is littered with third-party crap. The controller for the RGB on my keyboard, fucking mouse and monitor crashes my computer from time to time. It's bullshit. But if the fucking machine crashes, it all resets to some stupid garish orange. Just like, just change the fucking color on the device. Especially when even cheap shit comes with RGB now. See ya.